Hi there, Nick here from the Starter Glamping Business Podcast. This is just a very, very quick message to say that we will be taking a few weeks off. We're heading to Denver for the glamping show towards the end of this month. So we are going to be full steam ahead of that. So we'll be taking a few weeks off, but we'll be back better than ever, sort of the middle of October, we're thinking. We've got some very, very exciting news to come as well. I won't give all the secrets away, but you'll be, I think the podcast is going to go to the next level, we hope, when we're back, as I say, in mid-October. We've got an absolutely fantastic guest lined up for the new season, as we're calling it. We're going to call it season 4 of the Starter Glamping Business Podcast. So without further ado, I'll let you get on with the rest of the episode, and we will see you again in a few weeks' time. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome back to the Starter Glamping Business Podcast. Today we have Mike Munt, who runs Apogee, which is a firm in the marketing, branding and communication space. And the reason why we're interviewing Mike today in particular is because of his work with Under Canvas, who are one of the biggest companies in the glamping space. He's been working with them for a number of years, and we're really going to try and dig deep into why they've been successful, and particularly on the marketing and branding side of things too. So Mike, welcome to the show. Please give a far better introduction than I could ever give about yourself and the work that you do.
Oh, no, thanks, Nick. Well, no, you've done a good job. So I help, Under Canvas as well, but I also help shape other brands in the experiential accommodation space, working with a few others at the moment, sort of under the radar, but things will be released at some point. So yeah, my background's in visual design for brands. Rather just put out something that looks nice together. I try and think about who it's for, who the company trying to reach specifically, and what they might need to do with it. So I shape with my clients the vision for their company, help establish core ideas and mission. From there, work out what the brand will look like, and then begin expressing it. So the idea is then to create the right impact for the brand in their space.
And how did you get into that kind of space?
Some people say I came out drawing, so that's very much who I am. My mum and dad used to find me under the duvet cover with a torch and a pencil, just drawing. So I've always just drawn. A very visual person. So I did all the training in graphic design, illustration. I went to university, got qualifications, and then started out in business with a few firms. And then discovered that my way of expressing things creatively didn't necessarily fit with the business's vision. So I then branched out and did my own thing. Started out with things like logo design, branding, publication, what anyone would pay me to do, basically. Honed my skills in it, so it's sort of grown from there. Now, the current company, Apogee, is 8 years in. But I've been working in design and brand for about 16 years. People still tell me that I'm good at it, which is good. And I've helped many businesses on their journeys and transitions, which is always fun.
Okay, and today, as mentioned, we're really going to focus in on your work at Under Canvas. But before we do that, I think probably most people listening to this will be aware of who Under Canvas are. But for those who aren't, could you just give a brief overview of what Under Canvas is, how big they are, what kind of structures they have, etc.?
Yeah. So they're the premier glamping company in the States. If I'm reading it correctly, I think they are now at 11 sites. They have a few different structure types. They originally had these classic safari sort of almost box tent kind of thing, and they make that in a very authentic seeming manner with natural logs and natural materials. As far as possible. They've adapted and innovated, and they have a number of different similar structures of different sizes, depending on price bracket. And their camps are adjacent to national parks in the States, so they always have the best looking pictures to work with.
Yeah, and so Under Canvas, one of the biggest names in the American glamping industry, arguably the biggest name. You're as the listeners, I'm sure, can tell, you have a British accent like me. I know Under Canvas does have a British founder who we actually are going to be getting on the podcast, I think, next month. But tell us how you actually got that gig.
Yeah, well, so our story. Let's see. So one of the founders, Sarah, who is that who you have on next time, or are you not allowed to say? Okay.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
So we know Sarah from way back. So her and my wife were university friends, and so it came to they were in the UK at one point, and they were saying, well, we're going to branch out and do this thing, and it sounded completely bonkers to us, what they were planning on doing. But they invited us to help them start it up, which to us was even crazier. So 2009, we were invited out to be with them in Montana for about 3 months. We helped with I helped with the actual physical build of what became their prototype proof of concept camp. So it wasn't Under Canvas at that time, but it was a proof of concept camp under another name, and it was sort of a safari style thing, and it was based on their experience of seeing safari style camping in Africa, and then realising that the plains of Africa are somewhat like the plains in Montana, and Montana, I should say, is where Jake, the other half of the founders, grew up. So putting all that together, they were like, okay, let's build this out in Montana. So yeah, we started building that summer 2009. I helped Jake digging a lot of ditches and all that sort of stuff. And when the build started getting to more decorating stuff and sort of out of labouring, I then sort of worked on the brand and doing things which are more in my wheelhouse. So that was that first start, but then they found there was great interest in Jake's design of tents and the safari tents that he'd made, and people were asking, well, can we have them for our events? So they started doing that, and there was I think there was a particular event around Yellowstone National Park that they built out loads of tents for, and it was a really great success. But then seeing the tents there, they kind of got some cold wearing, and then the idea started forming of actually having their unique tents adjacent to national parks, and in this case starting at Yellowstone. So that became Under Canvas Yellowstone, as we now know it. And it was great for me because I had another brand to build. And as you know, it expanded. They went Glacier, Moab, then Zion National Park, and then it just grew and grew. And yeah, it just really took off. And Under Canvas are now, as you know, a big name. And they're also by far and away the biggest chunk of files on my hard drive, which it kind of speaks to their longevity and the amount that they have done, which is why I bring that strange metric into it. But it's been really great to be involved, all these years.
Yeah, and so you were. I didn't quite realise that you were literally there at the very start, literally digging ditches in the ground before anyone could have envisioned not just what Under Canvas would be like, but what the whole glamping industry would be like. Because really, they were a trailblazer in terms of the outdoor hospitality space. I don't think that there definitely wasn't any kind of glamping brand out there at the time. You're kind of sort of going in blind. So do you feel a sense of pride going from that very sort of it's almost like a rags to riches story in terms of how it's developed. I think they had like $100 million sale in 2019. So how do you feel looking back at that journey?
Yeah, really great. It's been a real pleasure. It really has. Even I still work with Jake and Sarah doing things that they've moved on to, and It's it's just so much fun working with those guys. I'm always looking for more people to work with that are like them. And I still work with under cameras as well, which is fantastic. Their needs have changed over the years, but I still get to fulfil some key areas, which is fantastic. Never thought I'd be working with any company for that long, to be fair. So yeah, really great lineage, and and also have that story to tell that I share with you, and people are often surprised when they're like, "Oh, so you were there at the start." So yeah, it's really great, and lots of really fun memories. A lot of I don't know, how can you put it? Stress that you kind of you never quite forget about, but it's more than worth it though. To be fair, a lot of ups and downs, but great stories.
Yeah, and you mentioned there that the needs of the company have changed, as is probably obvious from going from a one site company to 11 sites now, and one of the biggest names in the space. So, what is your role with them these days?
So they can bring a lot of the day-to-day graphic design stuff in-house, which makes total sense with them. So I work with some of the bigger stuff, so particular sales outreach material, thinking about thinking with their marketing team, thinking about what's how to get across some of the newer things that they're trying out. They do continue to innovate, which is really great. They're aware as much as anyone that the market moves, and so helping shape what that looks like is one of the things that I get to do.
Hi everyone, thanks for listening. This is just a quick note to say that this podcast is brought to you by Glamping North America. And what we do is we help you through the process of starting a glamping business no matter what stage you're at. So if you need to find a property, we'll tell you where the most suitable area is to start your glamping business. If you have a property, we'll look at your local zoning code and tell you how likely you are to get your project off the ground according to the zoning rules and regulations in your local area. We'll also give you a really good roadmap of permits that you'll need and regulations that you'll need to be aware of to get your glamping business off the ground. If you need financing, we'll introduce you to our range of financing partners and do you a feasibility study that will give you some really solid financial projections and market analysis that will allow you to acquire the funding that you need. If you need glamping units, we'll talk you through your options and introduce you to one of our trusted manufacturing partners to ensure that you're looked after throughout the whole process. If you need a site design or if you need permits to move forward with your project, we've got architects who will do all your drawings, make all your arguments, and essentially allow your dream to become a reality. The list goes on and I don't want to bore you, so I'll let you get back to the episode in a second. All I'd say is that Glamping North America are the people to speak to about starting a glamping business in the US or Canada. So if you're even thinking of starting a glamping business, just get in touch with us at contact@glamptech.com or 646-586-2330. All the details are in the description, and no matter what stage of the process you're at, we will be able to help, whether it's doing something ourselves or pointing you in the right direction of our partners. Just let us know that you came from the podcast and we'll see about doing you a little discount along the way. So thanks for listening, and I'll let you get back to the episode. Let's go right back to the trenches again, or maybe one step up from the trenches. We're not talking here when they opened their first location. We're talking, after they had, maybe it was relative success on their first location, they realised, okay, we want to sort of expand this into a bigger brand. What was your sort of marketing strategy when you were having those initial discussions about how you brand the company? What were those discussions like, and what was the playbook that you implemented for that growth?
Oh wow, that's a really good one. Really, my role at that time was just to express as much as I could what I knew was in them. So Jake and Sarah, they're very much visionary risk takers, and so it was helping it was listening to them their vision and working out how best to get that across. So it's what part of their mission is, how to preserve the planet whilst creating access to it. So not shutting it off and turning it into a park that you can only view on a camera, but actually getting people out there in a low impact way. And so really, it was just that. How can I help best express that? So in terms of what that looked like, that's obviously creating nice clean design of the brand, including elements of like the rustic in it, as many beautiful photos of the areas as possible. And just continuing to push that out, really.
Okay, and so you've seen them go from one location to 11, and they've even got a sister brand now and everything like that. I'm sure there's a whole load of reasons why they have been successful, none more so arguably than the vision of the two founders. But if you could put down the success of Under Canvas down to one particular factor, what would that be?
Probably a combined one. I'd say drive and risk taking. So I think there was like an element of providence in the whole thing. Like they were in the right place at the right time, but they also had to put the work in to seize the opportunity that was there. I don't think anyone could necessarily have foreseen what happened, but they were there, and they put the work in to be able to be that first, if you will. So I mentioned a little bit about their vision, preserving the planet, creating access, and that was like their drive, and it's a really important thing. This life passion of theirs to use business as a vehicle for change is something that they do in whatever they're doing. But having vision and drive is really important. Being able to so that you can stay in the process long enough to see results, to see any benefit from it. Which leads me to the other part, which is the risk taking. They went all in. They put in all they had and more was leveraged in those early years. It did pay off, though not without what at times seemed like failures, and it was tough at times. But going back to drive and purpose, that was what saw them through those difficulties. It takes a lot to do something like this, and as you've got like studies that are all about this, so you'll be well versed in it. And I totally wouldn't want to put someone off doing what is their passion, but that passion coupled with being realistic, I think is a winning formula, not just for Under Canvas but for other people that I've seen as well.
Yeah, and even what you said at the start about just being there in the first place, and circumstance obviously helped in terms of the way the industry was maybe going in a way that nobody could have foreseen, but still the fact that they had taken that risk, I think is really important to emphasize, because we get a fair amount of people listening to this podcast who are thinking of starting a glamping business, but ultimately probably 95% of the listeners just won't, just because that's the way of things. Not everyone is either willing or able to sort of just go ahead and do it, and they might spend a lot of time thinking, but they don't actually step forward and actually implement what they've been planning. So I think there's obviously a whole load of factors as to why Under Canvas is successful, but just being there in the first place, I think is something really important to emphasize, because ultimately if you never do take that step, if you never do take that risk, then it's never going to go anywhere. And once you're actually in the arena, things start to happen, but until you're there, you're not going to get anywhere. So I think that's really important, and maybe that could hopefully be the jolt that maybe one or two of our listeners maybe need to sort of actually take that step and get in there and see how it goes. And if it fails, it fails. That's part of it. But I'm sure there'll be a million lessons to be taken from that as well. So hopefully that's a little bit of inspiration for some of our listeners. So and on that point, you know, a lot of people listening to this may be looking to be, it sounds a bit sort of almost condescending, but it's probably the most accurate term, you know, the mom and pop operators where, you know, they're maybe not wanting to get to the size of a company like Under Canvas. They are going into this for passion. They maybe have a plot of spare land, or they're looking to buy a small property, maybe put, you know, 5-10 tents or cabins on, and just keep it as kind of like a passion project. So, you know, if you can sort of channel where you were 10 years ago with Under Canvas, the sort of scrappy underdog, what would your, you know, if you were to advise a mom and pop operator just getting started on their marketing and branding strategy, would you have a playbook that you'd look to implement, or a particular piece of advice that you'd sort of give them to get going on that front?
Yeah, probably a few things. I mean, I've certainly learnt a lot since those early days as a designer and, you know, brand shaper. So I would probably approach it a little differently now. You know, hopefully is of good value. So I would start with thinking about you know, what are you saying and to who specifically. I mean, all brands in any industry should be thinking about this anyway, but in this industry, I think it's becoming more important to be giving unique experiences. So thinking about your who means that you can really dial in on what do they want, you know, and it doesn't have to look like any other glamping operator. It can be something that's quite special. Could be quite unique to the location, maybe activities in the area, or just something unique to yourselves. So, I mean, Under Canvas, they had great success because people were interested. People were interested because there was nothing like it at the time. You know, there's well-appointed glamping stays adjacent to national parks. That was at that time that was their thing, and they were able to go big because they could expand as far as people were willing to go. Basically, they're showing us, you know, the glamping model. But at the same time, new operators, I think, need to be doing things that Under Canvas haven't done. You know, innovating is important, which again, as I say, goes back to your who. So if I was sat with a new client today, that's probably one of the first things I'd be asking them is, you know, who is your who? Who do you want to be bringing in? If a particular demographic is having great experience with you, then that is your marketing right there, because that you can let their experiences do the marketing for you. You know, capture it in whatever way you can. But it's you know, them sharing what was so great about your stay. You know, is going to be, you know, really selling it.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you probably do things differently now compared to when you were first working with Under Canvas back in 2009. Is there anything in particular that you would do differently that maybe, you know, you've learned from over the last 10, 15 years?
Yeah. Probably, as I say, the initial thinking aspect to it. So you know, including who, but your overall core ideas. You know, I didn't necessarily have to help the founders with their vision and values because they were doing that really. I just had to help with the presentation, but I know more now about helping people actually form those ideas so that it can be translated in a marketable way. So yeah, that's definitely a not new but newer piece that I bring in, and then and then we can start looking at, you know, what does it look like, you know, from your logo downwards into your social media design or whatever it is. But you know, it starts with those very core ideas. You know, who is it for? What's the mission? What are our values? What are we doing that's going to be attractive to people these days? And you know, there's rightly an ecological aspect to many of the setups, which couples with with a lot of shared values. But how are you doing that? What's special about the way that you are looking at doing that?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so let's go into the technical side of things briefly. For people who maybe already operate in the glamping business, maybe they've already got a strong strategy in place for their brand. Are there any particular metrics that you think glamping operators should be tracking on the marketing side of things, or particularly focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the actual metrics, that can vary, of course, platform to platform. Depending on how you are, reaching people. So, if it's social media, then it will be likes, comments, and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, record that. In terms of numbers, but in terms of the types of indicators, I would be looking at like your lead indicators, not the lag indicators. So that's an activity. A lead indicator is an activity that you put into your marketing efforts, and it's a bit like trying to find out how much fuel do we need to put in the car to get to where we need to go. It's something that can be sort of overlooked in marketing in general, particularly when we're doing it ourselves, and I speak for myself doing this as well. Is overlooking the measuring. So have a system. It can just be a spreadsheet, but look at recording what are you actually doing, and how does that trickle down into interest from potential guests and then actual guest stays, because then it'll tell you how much effort, time, money needs to go into getting those bookings, and then test out what you're doing. So yeah, once you got those basics in, you can then start adding paid ads and stuff like that. I wouldn't say do it straight away. I'd say put in the effort of just doing it organically at first, because that will help you build out the system of doing it, measuring it, recording it. Because it's like it's like digging trenches again, but you dig the trench first to catch the rain that is going to come, and then you can pour it on with ads and see what that does. And then once you're doing ads, test out variations of post types. Again, if you're doing social, see what gets good engagement, and then lean into where it's good. But I'd say be recording to get an idea of the time, money, effort that it's going to take to get bookings.
Okay, and then moving away from the technical stuff and onto our final question, which is a bit more of a sort of conceptual one again. If you were to give one piece of advice to a prospective glamping business owner on the marketing and branding side of things, what would that one piece of advice be?
So be authentic and unique. So be authentic, be you as much as you actually can. Like what unique combination of who you are and what you love, and what you can do for guests will make you different from other options that are out there. So potential guests are looking for not just a place to stay, particularly in this area, because they're looking for something unique. So I think they're looking for something as real and authentic in experience as they can get. They're looking for things which meet their values in terms of sustainability. But if they are people that are savvy in that regard, they will also have heard about the amount of greenwashing that goes on in tourism in general. So if that's part of your mission, emphasize that and be specific about how you're meeting that criteria. So yeah, having your authentic mission, values, and purpose allows you to center everything else that you do around that. And the other one was being unique. So specialise as far as you can. Specialise your stay to stand out. So as you know, there's a lot of competition out there, and it does affect pricing. So now I think is the time to specialise. So if you're in an area, for example, that has an activity like climbing or spelunking or something, then build a theme around that. Have places that they can sort out their equipment, tell stories, all that kind of thing. Put stories about climbing activities in your marketing. You will still get other people that don't do those things in your stay, but I think being a bit brave and being a bit more honed in and specific will actually help open things up for you. So, take the risk of being for someone rather than trying to be for everyone, because then you might end up being for no one. Because as competition rises, you have to get more granular and be more specific. I saw quite a good example a little while ago, which I thought was great. It was called Defectors Welcome, and the idea was it was aimed at people living the urban lifestyle, wanting to escape. And in this case, it was they were kind of making it as if it was like a political statement almost. So the brand was creating this whole story, which was really appealing to their demographic, which is like the city dweller. I thought it was really good marketing. Be uniquely you, specialise as much as possible, and once you have that, then you can get your core ideas down and begin to express that through brand design. So having clarified vision, purpose, it will really enhance your marketing.
Amazing. Well, Mike, if someone wants to speak to a seasoned marketer, brander, designer like yourself about helping them with their glamping business's growth, how do they go about doing that?
Well, you can always get me my email address. So it's simply mike@apogee.uk, apogii.uk. But also I live on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. So it's Mike Munt at LinkedIn, or you can search Mike Munt at LinkedIn. However that.
I'm sure they'll find you. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Mike. That's great. I'm looking forward to what's kind of going to be an accidental under canvas double header with Sarah coming on next month. So it'd be great to hear her perspective as well. So thank you again, Mike. That was great. It was really good insight into not just under canvas's story, but just in general about how to market and brand a glamping business, both the large brands and the mom and pop operators. So that was fantastic. Thank you. So for those listening, please do keep an ear out for the sort of second part of this, I suppose, with Sarah next month. But until then, Mike, thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll speak to you again soon.
All right. Thank you. It's been really great. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all.